What is up, team? Killchain here. 10.2 news announcements have dropped everywhere. Usual resources like your MMO champion, Wowhead, all that stuff will have plenty of articles to go over. There's the PTR out. We've got tier sets to go over. The looks of the tier sets as well. I'm sure I have the Warrior one up there. It absolutely looks dog shit, but hey, what are you gonna do? Today's video though, I want to specifically check out the Fury tier set bonuses and have a look at how that's going to implement and change our talent loadouts and gameplay. And yeah, some of the problems as well as the potential. First things first, the tier set themselves, we got 2-piece being Odin's Fury deals 50% increased damage and causes your next 3 Bloodthirsts to deal 100% additional damage as well as have a 100% crit chance against the primary target. No longer can you cleave that Bloodthirst crit, but it is towards your primary target. And the 4-piece is that Bloodthirst crits reduce the cooldown of Odin's Fury by 2.5 seconds. So you've got that tandem of Bloodthirst a lot, so you get Odin's Fury quicker. That'll give you guaranteed crits on Bloodthirst, which seems counterproductive as shit. So why are you incentivizing with your 4-piece to give us crits, or we want more crits from Bloodthirst, but then it's negated by the fact that your 2-piece is giving us 100% crit chance on Bloodthirst as well. So either use gear for crit chance, in which case you're losing value from your 2-piece, or gear for not crit chance, in this case you're losing value from your 4-piece. So very bizarre. It's not like it's critical. Bloodthirst casts reduce the cooldown of Odin's Fury. It's specifically the crit. So very weird and already kind of counterproductive. But the main issue with that is obviously they're clearly not happy with how Bloodthirst turned out for the 10-1 and our current Fury tier set. They tried to incentivize it, and instead we just ran the pure Raging Blow build and changed 1 point to pick up the Cold Steel Hot Blood. So very weird, very odd. But obviously they're really trying to push for Odin's Fury coming back, which is fine. Onslaught definitely had it. I can see the potential and I like where they're trying to push it. It's just it feels like you're being tugged from 2 separate ends of the spectrum. So your initial option is obviously stay a much more Raging Blow focused build, and you're just trying to pick up as much minimal kind of effort 4-piece help in any capacity. But if you're trying to hold on to that, you're obviously probably pulling out of Onslaught. You're going to lose a lot of Enrage uptime, which, well, not a lot, but it's going to be much, much harder to maintain higher levels of Enrage uptime thanks to Tenderize. That's really going to be noticeable. But if you want to pull out 1 point to at least pick up Odin's Fury, then that's sort of your option. And then you have no way of initially enraging you straight away. You don't go deep enough to pick up Titanic Rage, which guarantees you an enrage at the start of the fight with Odin's Fury, You don't get it from Onslaught anymore because you don't pick up Tenderize, in which case you're sort of forced to pick up Fresh Meat. Irrelevant in a raiding environment, the first 5 seconds aren't really going to matter that much, but in a Mythic Plus environment, you really want something to be able to initially enrage you straight away and then start your flow of the gameplay. So if you are holding on to the old Raging Blow build and just trying to get as much value out of the new tier set that we're dealing with, this is probably going to be an option. You can still run Berserker's Torment. In fact, for an anger management build, that might still end up being the play. As it currently stands though, Titan's Torment does not actually proc the 2-piece at all. So the free random Odin's Fury that you cast when you hit Avatar doesn't do anything for the tier set. So I imagine that's a bug. Most people in the class Discord seems to agree that it's probably going to be hotfixed in some capacity, in which case that might end up being better because you're just doubling the value of your set bonuses basically, because you're bringing back the 2-piece to have 2 chances from 2 sets of Odin's Fury casts instead of just the 1. So in the event that that does get hotfixed, then by all means Titan's Torment, probably going to be the go-to. But that being said, the Berserker's Torment really still brings a lot of value for any sort of anger management build. So this is essentially sticking it to the man and just kind of tweaking a couple of things just to try and get any sort of value out of the tier set. But it really even decentivizes the 4-piece entirely, because you're only bloodthirsting very, very not that often. And once in every 20 seconds, and you're really getting very minimal value out of the 4-piece at all. The downside here as well is it very specifically and clearly makes sure it mentions that it only grants the 100% crit chance to your primary target. So the whole purpose of this initial build, especially getting the more bleed-centric talents, was you're using Meat Cleaver to cleave Bloodthirst crits on multiple people, which means 5 targets are all getting cold, still, hot blood. That is no longer going to be the case. So this is, although it seems like initially the better burst build, 100% is, because you're picking up Ravager and things like that. Your initial burst is going to be much greater, but it just doesn't synergize at all with the tier set. And that's one of its biggest problems, is it's essentially going, we don't want you touching the right-hand side of the tree at all, and you'll purely need to push down to the left. So in an AoE or Mythic Plus environment, you're still obviously keen to pick up your Thunderous Roar. The Thunderous Words, for example, increasing your bleed damage is clearly, relevant in some capacity there. So if we are going to dip out of the right-hand side of the tree entirely, then we kind of need to have a look how that's going to look. Now, alternatively, if we're going to steer into this whole new tier set, we are pulling out of all the executing sort of abilities. We do need to pick up Sudden Death for pathing, specifically for Cruelty, all the way down to Meat Cleaver. And we don't need to pick up your Wrath and Fury or Hack and Slash anymore. That gives us a bit more point distribution. It is still going to be pretty important. You would have noticed earlier on in the video, obviously Blood Craze sort of helps alleviate that gap of how the 2-piece is conflicting with the 4-piece, because you get crit, but then you also want crit naturally to proc more Bloodthirst for the 4-piece to reduce Odin's Fury even more. And then you're sort of struggling to figure out, do you gear for crit or you're relying, where's it coming from? Well, Blood Craze helps fill that gap. So you're probably still going to be going Haste Master as usual. And then you can pick up your crit chance through talents like Blood Craze and, Recklessness. So you obviously have an extra for 20% crit chance on that. And so that's going to help alleviate that issue, especially when they fix the Titan's Torment to also allow you to get a second bout of 3 Bloodthirst to help get that, ball rolling. Then even in your opener, you're going to have access to 6 Bloodthirst. That'll all be 100% guaranteed crit. And that'll kind of get you rolling, right? So most notably, if we can pull out of any sort of Raging Blow stuff for AoE, we still want Meat Cleaver. If you didn't run Meat Cleaver at all, you're relying on Titanic Rage to help give you 2 stacks of Raw Wind. That's all well and good, but the AoE is just nowhere near as potent or capable in any capacity, honestly. So in that regard, unfortunately, the reality is even when you have the extra Odin's Fury from this bad boy also helping you with 2 stacks of Whirlwind initially, it just runs dry so quick. You need Meat Cleaver to help bridge that gap to keep any sort of consistent AoE whatsoever. Probably quite valuable in terms of if you just need a little bit of cleave on demand, as opposed to an absolute full flourish of AoE, but it will be circumstantial based on the encounter or anything like that. This will be your most likely the standard kind of go-to for a raid build. Now, you'll notice that the key components here is we're pulling out of Vicious Contempt to be able to go down to the rest of it. And you do have an extra point that you can sort of throw around and do what you need to do with. Most notably when we're pulling out of it and we need to just kind of get some sort of ball rolling when it comes to more single target orientated. We obviously don't need any of that stuff. So Cruelty all the way up will be replaced. And we can pick up our 2 in Vicious Contempt. And then we've sort of got this extra floating point that we can deal with. Now, unfortunately, again, it's either going to go on Cruelty, or if you need the defensiveness, you can pick up things like Invigorating Fury, or even just Massacre, just getting earlier access to the your executes will help bridge the gap in terms of just typical rotation stuff. It will just help do more damage, right? But it's really going to boil down to whether or not having execute be usable at 35% is more than having a buffed Bloodthirst doing that same global cooldown. So as it stands right now, it would look as if the Bloodthirst from Vicious Contempt being an extra 50% damage below 35% health means that for each global, you're actually kind of only sitting there going Rampage, Bloodthirst, Bloodthirst, Rampage, Bloodthirst, Bloodthirst, Rampage, Bloodthirst, you get the idea. And that's going to be all the execute damage you need through Vicious Contempt. That being said, though, if it doesn't work out in that favor, by all means, cool, happy days, you can pick up Massacre. Otherwise, your other option is just picking up Cruelty because it gives you slightly extra Annihilator damage. Nothing too crazy there. Or if you need the defensive option, you can go into Invigorating Fury or whatever else you might need. As you can see, you're sort of twiddling your thumbs, not running a Raging Blow build. There's some extra loose things here. Again, don't be trapped by the single-minded Fury, for the love of God, please. definitely not going to be worth it. But otherwise, outside of that, you're just pulling out a Vicious Contempt to go down and into Meat Cleaver. So just like last time, a couple of points to swap around, nothing too crazy. And in terms of how it plays, then yeah, essentially we're relying on Reckless Abandon, just like we used to way back at the start of the game. And it's going to take a bit of training to get back into the rhythm of Rampage, something, Rampage, something, Rampage. Thankfully, the actual, I guess, rage flow of everything allows you to pretty much roll comfortably, go Rampage, Bloodthirst, Rampage, Bloodthirst. That's a tongue twister. So shouldn't be too much of an issue. And then whenever you do actually need the, help kind of facilitate the issue, when it is empowered by RA, your Bloodbath actually doesn't impact your Bloodthirst cooldown at all. So you can go Bloodbath twice, and then if you really need more rage and need to hit Bloodbath again, or Bloodthirst in this case, then that cooldown of Bloodthirst has nothing to do with the cooldown of Bloodbath. So you've used up those two, and then you can immediately Bloodthirst again straight away. And so within that 3 Bloodthirst casts, you're able to Rampage again, and then that flow of gameplay is pretty consistent. That's the most benefit out of it, is it is consistent. And then again, heavy lifting through Blood Craze for the crits required for the 4-piece not to be completely horrible. And then every time Odin's Fury is up, cool, you're sending that to get your guaranteed crits. Gives you a bit more burst, and obviously in this case as well, guaranteed crits for Cold Steel Hot Blood, and then getting all the relevant damage increasing bleed effects, which will directly tap into Odin's Fury as well, which is helpful. So this is likely what we're going to be running, and then like I said, the dip into the AoE when we're needed. And yeah, I really don't know how it's going to hold up. It'll be interesting to see in terms of tuning what changes further over the next like month and a half or so as we approach 10.2. But that's what we're going to be dealing with most likely. Let me know what you guys think, or if there's any other comparative builds that you might be looking at or thinking of yourselves. Apart from that, stay tuned to the channel. Subscribe obviously helps us out, but more importantly, we'll have plenty of other warrior and other melee specs coming down the pipeline. I'm very interested to check out the insanity that is the arms tier. We'll go over that in another video. Rogue's getting a rework, which looks really interesting for all 3 specs. Havoc Demon Hunter as well, which might be worth just keeping an eye on, especially given that Vengeance looks like it's going to be a little bit not great moving into the next season. So everyone that's a Demon Hunter will be going Havoc. And it'll be interesting to see how bad or good potentially the Frost DK tier set as well. I've always enjoyed Frost. But that being said, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.